everyone. My name is Reggie, and I'm glad everybody came today. We will, first of all, have a 10-minute meditation time, and I'll kind of watch the time, and then we're going to have Sobhana speak for us, and so we'll get started.
I would like to introduce Ayya Sobhana. She is going to speak about Theravada women. She is from the Sangha community up in the Marin area, and it's a woodland women's, like a monastery up there in the woods. I hope that you'll all be able to visit it someday.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I feel so happy and delighted to see these three different communities together. Those who have been participating for a long time in the Interfaith Women for Peace, those who are the Friends of the Peace Pagoda, who have been coming here to this space for a long time, and those who are the Friends of the Dhamma-Dharini, who have been supporting my community of Theravada monastic women. Now I'm going to try to, in just a few minutes, think of what is the most important in few things. How many things can one say in just a short time? And what's really important to mention about Buddhism? Well, I'm not a big enough scholar to cover the whole topic. I can only cover what I know from my own experience. And that would be the experience of someone who was brought up in a Catholic family, who had good experiences during my childhood and teenage years with the Catholic nuns' orders. In fact, I think I could say that's part of why I'm in robes now. It's because of the powerful, favorable impressions that I got when I was a young girl. And then also later on, I was a Quaker for about 12 years. I was attending Quaker meetings, had some familiarity with that. And then came into Buddhism with a particular flavor of a Westerner who's trying to incorporate an ancient Indian culture. I think there are three things that I would say about Buddhism. One is about the importance of the figure of Gautama Buddha himself, the founder of Buddhism, and the way that we are situated in history from the time of the Buddha and his character, his personality, and some of the patterns that were established in the nature of the monastic order. And then the second point I'm going to cover, try to speak about, is what we are aiming for in terms of awakening or enlightenment. And the third point I'd like to mention is about the characteristic that Buddhism has a gradual training path or a methodical sequence for spiritual development. I read in one book about comparative religion that Jesus is more essential to Christianity, but that for Buddhism, the Dhamma, which means the truth or the reality of nature, the Dhamma would be the Dhamma whether or not the Buddha ever existed. And so not as much of a fundamental necessity. However, we acknowledge what's called a triple gem, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. The Buddha is the person who was a human being who realized this truth for himself through direct experience. and then indirectly giving us the confidence and the knowledge that it is within the ability of the human being to have her own, his own direct experience and knowledge of the ultimate truth. And then, especially in the Theravada tradition, we have this wonderful heritage of the texts that were saved through the oral tradition for several hundred years following the Buddha's death, his passage to Nibbana. And those texts were kept with a lot of wish for the preservation of Buddhism. Even you could say that the death of the Buddha was a kind of a crisis for the spiritual community, in the same way that the death of Christ was the central crisis or the important moment in Christianity. They had this knowledge or the teaching of impermanence, and they had the idea that all of the things that the Buddha had taught, that they'd been able to realize and been able to understand, was only going to be a temporary thing, and that the Buddha Sasana, or what his teachings were, was going to be forgotten, and that people would go back into a dark era of not knowing how to wake up or how to get out of suffering. So, in order to try to keep going as long as possible, they made all this effort to remember accurately, to record, and to keep the teachings in an accessible form. They thought that Buddhism might last 500 years, but now it's been 2,500 years, and we still have Buddhism, and we still have realized masters, and we still have a living tradition that's been handed down. Even they say that this monastic order is the oldest constitutional organization that has a set of bylaws that has been going on continuously for 2,600 years. And also, we know through contact with the West also had some impact on the evolution of monasticism in the West. These texts are kind of the bedrock, or the original stock, that although Buddhism changes and adapts and goes through cultural adaptations and sometimes goes through times of corruption, times of going downhill, it's possible to pick up those old texts and to once again come to a revival. So Buddhism has been revived several times by persons who take inspiration and start again from those early texts. We have contemplation of the Buddha as one of the basic protective contemplations that we do. And I was actually reflecting a little bit this morning to think if that was just the same thing as the kind of like meditation on love of God or love of Christ that I recall from my earlier experience. And partly it's true. It's also true that the Buddha taught this metta meditation that is not particularly focused on his personality, but is just universal. And I think maybe that's even the closest thing. If one would imagine the heart of friendliness, loving friendliness, the heart of compassion, the heart of sympathetic joy, and an equanimous acceptance of the reality of all the beings in the world, whatever their state, and imagine that spreading throughout the world without any limitation, like a man standing on a mountain blowing the conch horn, and how the sound waves would echo and echo all through the valley, and he would just go everywhere and fill the whole space of the area with that beautiful sound of the trumpet or the horn that he was blowing. So our love is pervading in that way. And I think maybe that's similar to a type of a spiritual practice that is universal, that's also done in other traditions. What are we aiming for? So when I first encountered Buddhism as an American, I encountered the westernized form of Buddhism, which was a little bit like a psychotherapy to resolve some of the gross mental problems that come from not knowing how to attend to the various kinds of defilements or unwholesome qualities that we harbor, and learning how to learning the value of virtue for mental health, learning that if we make the resolution to do good and to avoid evil and to purify the mind of unwholesome mind states, that this happiness is attainable. But then having entered monastic life and met more great teachers, I see that the aspiration for awakening actually is a real thing. And so this is a characteristic of Buddhism, that we want to wake up, we want to attain enlightenment. We feel that as humans, we inherited a mixed bag of good qualities and bad qualities, like our genetic heritage and our cultural heritage, and we are born again and again and again in the world with all of its mixture of suffering and pleasure, and we would like to stop the merry-go-round and get off the merry-go-round, to get off the roller coaster, get rid of the ups and downs, to stop all of this effort of trying to sustain life and produce more and more life. The characteristic of the one who has obtained awakening, as well as I can understand it now, is that he or she has really lost the self-centered view, so that her consciousness is no longer bound and limited by that which is beneficial for protecting her own life or for protecting her own group or something like that. But instead, there's been a very deep transformation of consciousness by realizing that this self or this ego or this person or this you know who it is. It's the one who is surrounded by your skin, and including all of the things that are inside your skin, and including the mind, which is produced as a result of the life force. That's you. And the process that makes it seem to be you is simply a natural process, according to the Buddha's teaching, that because of how the brain works, how the body works, how the mind works, how we evolved, that there's all of this that makes us think that I need to protect myself and take care of myself and defend my life. And the great thing is when that's let go of, it can be put down. So it's like, lay down the burden, lay down the flag, fill in the trench, that's the moat around the castle, fill in the trench, unlock the door, be completely at peace. Nothing needs to be defended, nothing needs to be protected. There's nothing, as a result of that understanding, the mind is no longer agitated, So there is this profound experience of peace and tranquility, and with that non-agitation, the mind becomes free from craving and aversion, and so there's this experience of freedom. So the freedom, the peace, and the letting go of the identification with that whole self-centered process. Those are the three major characteristics of liberation as I can understand it. And I think you probably, those who are coming from other traditions, you've got something that gets to the same point through a different direction, but you get to the same place or a similar place. Then the last idea that I want to mention is that Buddhism seems to be much more specific in terms of the how-to. Even when I was a Quaker, I frequently asked them about meditation, and I didn't feel like I got very clear answers about how to meditate, whereas in Buddhism, maybe they're almost too far off the other end with very, very, very detailed instructions. The characteristic of the teaching that the Buddha gave is that it is onward leading. So it goes from step A to B to C to D, E, F, G, H, and it goes on like that, step-by-step process, and then each step supports the next step. There's several different versions of the gradual training given for different people, different types of people. I'll give a nutshell of one version that is frequently explained to, that the Buddha explained to lay people who were not already deep meditators or philosophers, they were just ordinary people. Right? First, he mentioned a right understanding, a right view. That's the Four Noble Truths. Here's a nutshell, a living example of the Four Noble Truths. I met a lady who was an addict. She got in trouble. She was a pharmacist, and she lost her pharmacy license and her livelihood because she was writing herself prescriptions. In recovery, she was full of resentment, filled with anger, many years suffered. Then learned about the Dhamma, that suffering. This is the first noble truth. Okay, carrying that anger, carrying that burden, that anger, that resentment. Okay, that's dukkha. That's the first noble truth of the Buddha. Then, when she learned the Dhamma and started to meditate, something happened someday. It finally got through to her that it was not necessary to carry around all this resentment, that it was possible just to put down the anger. It's just not necessary to do that. Okay, that's the second noble truth. That it's about craving, the cause of suffering should be let go, put down. So she realized the second noble truth. Then, having let go of her anger and resentment, then she experienced this tremendous relief. What a happiness and what a joy to be free from that burden that she'd been carrying. That's the third noble truth, where you realize cessation. Having realized cessation, then she became very enthusiastic about the practice, and she wanted to practice. That's the fourth noble truth, the path to the end of suffering. Okay, so you have to start somewhere. The Buddha says start with some kind of right view, then get your morality squared away, and there's many beautiful passages that show the beauty of a beautiful, virtuous lifestyle as being something that's not cramped and irritable, but instead something that really is lovely, attractive, beautiful, and joyful to himself and to others. Then having developed that attractive kind of virtue, then he says practice that loving kindness, just like I was telling you about earlier. Then you've got your right view, your virtue, your loving kindness, and at this point he says that you are safe, in the sense that if you happen to die right then, you're not going to hell. So you don't need to be afraid of the hell realms as long as you've got those things sustained. And with Or you could say that you're not going to wake up tomorrow in the hell room and be remorseful about some mistake that you made, because whatever. Then, having that safety, then the mind becomes calm. Then one is able to meditate. When one is able to meditate, then the mind becomes pliable, flexible, and then you're ready to hear the more deep and profound teachings, and to get into real Buddhism. So that's just one example. There are many other examples of this kind of a gradual training, which is laid out in such a psychologically sensible, logical, and helpful way. So now, I know that time is going by, and I want you to have a little flavor of the wisdom of my colleague, Venerable Bhikkhuni Hanh, who is both senior to me, more widely experienced than me in several different Buddhist traditions. And so I'm going to turn over to her. Please save your questions for a little discussion period at the end.
Good afternoon, Catholic sister and venerables and ministers and all friends, students in college. Last night after I discussed with her, I was hurried to write this down. So I'm going to read for you. Regina, my name was Regina Passis. So if you ever go on the internet, you see the comments from Regina Passis, you know that was a Catholic name. It's my name. So I appreciate the opportunity to share with you about the Buddhism. I'm sure you all hear and know about this many years. However, this is my opportunity to explain. So the Buddha teaches us that all living beings are equal. We are equal at birth, old age, decay, and in death. We are equally responsible for our actions, and also at the same time we receive equal rewards from the good deeds that we have done, or we receive sufferings if we hurt others. When the Buddha delivered that true and logical nature, there was no exception for anything, anyone, or any living being, male or female, young or old, all are equal. However, human beings cause discrimination, cause superiors and inferiors, but not equally, different male and female, with the female always secondary or losing equal right. Within the family, the woman always has to obey husband. Outside, in the social arena, when they work, their salary is always less than their male colleague. This inequality is so obvious in the workplace. Although today is in the United States, there has been reduction in inequality in work or pay, but it is persist, and we cannot deny that. In the civilian arena, women have been suppressed unfairly. However, that suppression cannot be imposed on faith, compassionate hearts, or the woman's good nature. They were born with it. In other words, to make it clear, women's good hearts will have advantage over men's ultimately, because men cannot have the soft touch of a mother. Men don't have patience like women to raise and feed a child or to teach a baby how to say respect things. and to endure suffering. Women serve others and become teachers, doctors, nurses, and harpists, astronauts, engineers, and also help other victims in wars or disasters, orphans, with their true and loving hands, like a magic wand. They can soften suffering and reduce unhappiness, and they can dissolve pain and suffering of life with smiles and soft talk and encouragement to the failures. What will happen to all living beings if we don't have the kind heart and love of females? The answer is it would be very bad for this world. Human beings would suffer a lot more, and perhaps for all living beings, survival and continuity of life would be hopeless without females. Production. We are the women who wholeheartedly help others, and we should be proud to be women. We should be proud even in this life is short and temporarily, because we are here to help to make it more beautiful, peaceful, and more livable. Excuse me. The above is about all the women and all the females. Now, for the women in Buddhism, the oldest one and the senior, that's called Theravada. The Theravada school, following the Tripitaka, or called the three baskets in the Pali Canon. During the Buddha's lifetime, there were many bhikkhunis, who attained enlightenment and became arhat and entered the final ultimate bliss by restraining intake materials and concentrating on the mind in meditation. And this was explained by Venerable Sobhana about the Four Noble Truths, the practice. And following about the Mahayana that I practice, and Vajrayana, the basic is for the Vietnamese Buddhist women who live in the United States, which we have few here, and practice Mahayana school. They work generously, helping others in need. Buddhist Dharma gives them the wholesome wisdom to learn to reduce suffering by let go. This wisdom can stabilize people's lives, bring peace in community. They understand the nature of impermanent suffering and ultimately selflessness. It's an airplane. This philosophy helps us, the monastic women in Mahayana, to be content and to grow strong in all schools, whether Theravada, Mahayana, or Vajrayana. For the Mahayana monastic women or Bhikkhunis, it's Pali or Sanskrit, they follow the path of Bodhisattva. Their life mainly is to serve others and generate a bodhicitta. Now bodhicitta is, bodhi is Sanskrit or Pali, enlightened. Citta is mind. You have a mind of enlightenment, that means you let go of materials or the selfish for yourself. So if you generate that bodhicitta, that means that is the mind of enlightenment. So I just explained a little bit about the citta, that means mind or heart. So called the channel, the Mahayana monastic women. To liberate themselves and others by helping all suffering beings on earth. Many of them
manifested as mother of compassion, or Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara or Panyam, or million arms, million eyes. And these Mahayana monastic women worked tirelessly for eons to help living beings from suffering in samsara. Samsara in Pali or Sanskrit, it means the rebirth, the circle of rebirth is never end. It just die and rebirth again and again. The Mahayana monastic allowed to eat 3 meals. They take the main meal is the lunch, heavy, and the breakfast and dinner that's light, vegetarian meals, mostly vegetarian. They are the teachers and they are the servants to people, and work selflessly to benefit others. That's the main goal, to benefit others. They vow to delay entering Nirvana until the end of all the suffering. Besides helping others, they also meditate, chant, and study the Buddhist philosophies and practice for enlightenment. To the end of their life, most of them will be reborn in Pure Land to become a Buddha and return to earth to teach others. That's Pure Land, we have the picture in the back. There. For Vajrayana school, that's the youngest brothers and youngest sister, they just created in 7th century. Women monastic in Vajrayana mostly are Tibetan and Mongolians, and some is like now Ladakh, that's near Nepal, and Bhutan. And so now it's spread to Vietnam. The monastic of Vajrayana practice order, they don't have bhikkhunis. They never had a bhikkhunis ordination because I think that was just directly come from India. And at that time, the bhikkhuni order in India was already wiped out. So they took their practice, like also following the Bodhisattva path, that I don't mind to be rebirth to help others. The Bodhisattva path of humility, keep their mind pure, generate bodhicitta, and help other sufferers, sacrifice. Their practice is chanting hundreds of millions of mantras. One day, every time they work, they will chant Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. That's her mantra. Or Om Ahum Vajravurum Atmasiri Hum. Om Mani Mani Mahamani Sakya Mani, so on. So they chant all mantras. The mantra is keep their mouth from talking. And the pure, the verbal working. And they also do the million prostrations. The head touch the floor, the both hands, the totally touch the floor. That to purify the body. So actually Tibetan practice more enlightenment faster because body working for purification and the verbal chanting all the times, verbal purification, and the mind, all they have to think is that I work for others. I don't work for myself. So it's actually they real fast to enter Nirvana before Theravada. So also prostration can be a form of I worship you because you're so high, you're so good, you are so pure, you are so much love, and your wisdom so high. I cannot give you anything. You have everything in the world, so I bow you. It just like thanks you that you'll be here. You're born here on earth, so you teach me the way of love and enlightenment. So because you don't need anything, you don't want gold or animal or diamonds. I bow you. So that was one kind of appreciation. So they also practice offerings, give a lot. Like they offer the water, and we have the cups of water there, and offer flowers, and offer fruits, offer incense, smoke, and they also offer by prostration. Do a lot of prostration to offer. The main practice, they chanting mantra and learning literature from Tibetan. They are very good teachers. They wrote many good books. So this just about those three, but I didn't want to mention the Nirvana. But to tell the truth, that when we Mahayana and Vajrayana monastic, we accept to delay our entering the heaven, the Nirvana, if we have to work to serve others and still more people suffer out there. So we will say, okay, you go ahead and put you on the train first, and I take the next bus later. So that's how the Mahayana, but the Theravada, they devoted to enter Nibbana. So take my bow. And that's just about, and you can ask questions. I am very thankful to have this opportunity to share with all of you about Mahayana monastic women. And now it's exactly 3:30. It's working. Over here, affected by the airplane. So we are going to chant. I'm going to sing for you. We go because you are such a good people, the holy people. We have two or three Catholic sisters. How many? One Catholic sister back there. Two. I'm so delighted. And 3 Catholic sisters. Jesus is my friend. And so we're going to sing for you. To offer to all the holy, my friends here, and I have to say that I'm very proud of you all as a woman, and you see out of the program that we will work very much to help the Bhikkhuni Sobhana and her group to have a small number of vihara here. They need it, and as a woman, I think we all can put our head and think to